The kick came from nowhere, fast, cruel, deliberate. It caught Lieutenant Junior Grade Sloan Merrick square in the jaw. The sound, a sickening crack that echoed through the empty equipment wing, would later be described in medical reports as a high-velocity impact consistent with combat trauma. Blood filled her mouth instantly, warm, metallic, wrong, her vision blurred. The world tilted 15 degrees to the left. Through the haze, she saw three silhouettes, Marines, laughing. "Get lost, new girl. This ain't your world." Sloan could have ended them right there. Black belt in 3 disciplines, Navy SEAL, combat instructor certified, 247 days deployed in hostile territory. She knew 17 ways to incapacitate a man in under 4 seconds. But she didn't move, didn't fight back, just tasted the copper on her tongue and made a choice they would never understand. Because Sloan Merrick knew something these boys didn't. The most dangerous weapon isn't a fist, it's patience. And hers was just beginning. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's rewind 72 hours. Back to where this all started. Back to the moment a young woman stepped onto Falcon Ridge Joint Base and became invisible. March 15th, 2018, 0638 hours. The California sun hadn't yet burned off the morning fog when the Jeep rolled to a stop outside the main gate. Sloan stepped out, boots hitting gravel with the kind of precision that comes from muscle memory. She was 22 years old, dark hair pulled into a regulation low bun, olive drab t-shirt, no rank insignia visible, standard issue multicam pants, a single duffel bag over her shoulder, no fanfare, no escort, no introduction, just another face in a sea of green. The admin clerk barely glanced up when Sloan approached the desk. Mid-50s, reading glasses perched on her nose, the kind of bureaucratic fatigue that comes from processing too many transfers and not enough coffee. Name? Merrick, Sloan, Lieutenant Junior Grade. The clerk's fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced indifference. Barracks C, Rack 14. Orientation 1300 hours. Don't be late. Understood. No questions about her MOS. No curiosity about her assignment. Good. Sloan preferred it that way. She'd been briefed on the mission 48 hours prior. Temporary evaluation officer. 3 weeks. Observe and assess Joint Force integration protocols. That's what the paperwork said. That's all anyone needed to know. The truth was buried 6 levels deeper in the chain of command. Ghost protocol. 14 cases of sexual harassment in 6 months. 14 women who'd suffered in silence. 14 reports that somehow never made it past battalion level. The Navy wanted answers. They wanted documentation. And they wanted someone who could survive long enough to get it. Someone like Sloan. She found her rack, stowed her gear, and headed to the chow hall. The morning rush was thinning out. A few stragglers finishing breakfast. Maintenance crews rotating shifts. Drill instructors prepping for the day's chaos. Sloan grabbed black coffee, no sugar, no cream, and found a corner table. Pulled out a small leather notebook. Not military issue, something she'd carried since beauty/S training. Her instructors had taught her many things during those brutal months in Coronado. How to survive Hell Week. How to function on 3 hours of sleep. How to swim 2 miles in the Pacific with your hands and feet bound. But the most important lesson, the one that stuck, write everything down. Memory fades, documentation doesn't. She was logging the time, 0700 hours, when she first heard it. "Who's that?" The voice came from a table near the serving line. 4 Marines, mid-20s, still in PT gear. The speaker was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of swagger that comes from never being challenged. Corporal rank on his sleeve. Name tape read, Kavanaugh. "New transfer, I think," another replied. Smaller build, follower energy. "She looks about 12. Laughter rippled through the group. "Probably admin," Kavanaugh continued, voice carrying just loud enough. "Filing paperwork, Making copies, girl stuff. More laughter, louder this time. Sloane didn't look up, didn't react, just sipped her coffee and wrote in her notebook. 0702 hours. Corporal Kavanaugh. Casual disrespect. Textbook insecurity. Napoleon complex confirmed. Escalation probability high. She'd heard worse, much worse. During buds, the instructors had screamed in her face for 6 months straight, called her things that would make these Marines blush. But that was training. That was authorized. That had a purpose. This was just boys being cruel because they could. She logged the interaction and moved on. By 1100 hours, she'd toured the facility, reviewed training schedules, and observed 2 morning drills from the observation deck. She noticed everything. Timing inconsistencies, sloppy gear transitions, 3 separate safety protocol violations during live fire exercises. But she said nothing. Not yet. Her job wasn't to correct on day 1. It was to watch, assess, document, build a case so airtight that when she finally spoke, no one could ignore it. So she watched. At 12:37, she headed back to the barracks to drop off her notes. The corridor was narrow, concrete walls, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Her footsteps echoed in the empty space. She heard them before she saw them. Heavy boots, multiple sets, moving fast. 3 Marines rounded the corner. Kavanaugh in the lead. The 2 from breakfast flanking him. Lance corporals. Name tapes read Dalton and Holt. Pack mentality. Predictable. Kavanaugh saw her and smiled. Not friendly, not welcoming, predatory. Well, look who it is. Sloane kept walking, eyes forward, stride steady, professional. Hey, new girl, I'm talking to you. She didn't stop. Yo! He stepped directly into her path. She stopped, looked at him, said nothing. You deaf or just rude? Neither, Sloane said quietly. Just busy. Busy doing what? Getting lost? The other 2 laughed on cue. Rehearsed. Predictable. Boring. Excuse me, Sloane said, moving to step around him. Kavanaugh shifted left, blocking her again. Not so fast. You got a name? Merrick. Merrick? He repeated it like it was a joke. What, first name? Rank? Or you just go by one word like Madonna? Dalton snorted behind him. Just Merrick, Sloane said evenly. Just Merrick, Kavanaugh mocked her tone. You always this friendly, or is it just us? I don't know you, Sloane replied, so I can't say. Holt stepped closer, bigger than the other 2, neck thick as a fire hydrant. Cold, she's cold, Bryce. Yeah, I noticed. Kavanaugh leaned in slightly, close enough that Sloane could smell his cheap cologne mixed with sweat. You know what happens to people who think they're better than everyone else around here? Sloane met his eyes, calm, unflinching. They usually are. It wasn't arrogance, it was fact. But Kavanaugh didn't hear it that way. His jaw tightened, the smile vanished. You got a mouth on you, and you're in my way. For 3 seconds, no one moved. Sloane could see the calculation happening behind Kavanaugh's eyes. He wanted to escalate, wanted to put her in her place, but something stopped him. Maybe the way she stood, maybe the complete lack of fear in her expression, maybe some buried instinct that whispered, this one's different. He stepped aside, just enough. Sloane walked past him without another word. Behind her, she heard Holt mutter, stuck-up bitch. The laughter followed her down the corridor. She didn't turn around, didn't need to. She'd already logged the interaction in her mind. Time, 12:37. Location, East Barracks Corridor. Individuals, 3. 1 corporal, 2 lance corporals. Behavior, verbal intimidation, physical obstruction. Assessment, escalation inevitable. That night, Sloane sat on her rack and opened a secure laptop. Military-grade encryption, satellite uplink. She typed a brief report and sent it to a single email address, No name attached, just a designation. Ghost Actual. The response came back in 90 seconds. Continue observation. Document everything. Do not engage unless threatened. Repeat, do not engage. Sloan closed the laptop and stared at the ceiling. The fluorescent lights above her bunk flickered with a rhythm that reminded her of surf breaking on the beach at Coronado. She'd spent 6 months there, the crucible, the place where most people quit. She remembered the night before Hell Week. Her class instructor, a grizzled chief with 3 decades of experience, had pulled her aside. "Merrick," he'd said, "you know why most people fail this program? Physical weakness, Master Chief? No. Physical is easy. We can break your body and rebuild it. The ones who fail, they quit up here." He tapped his temple. They let the noise get inside, the screaming, the cold, the pain. They forget why they started. "How do you stop that, Master Chief?" He'd looked at her with eyes that had seen too many wars. "You don't stop the noise. You just decide it doesn't matter." She'd carried those words through every evolution, through surf torture, through drown-proofing, through the night they made her class swim 4 miles in the Pacific, while instructors threw flashbangs into the water. The noise doesn't matter, only the mission. Thursday came fast. Sloan spent the morning observing advanced combatives training. She'd stayed late reviewing footage with one of the senior instructors, a gunnery sergeant who actually respected competence over gender. "Your notes are solid, Lieutenant," Gunny had said, scrolling through Sloan's tablet. "You catch things most evaluators miss." "Thank you, Gunny. You got experience running drills?" Sloan hesitated. The mission was observation, staying invisible, but lying to a fellow instructor felt wrong. Some? Gunny raised an eyebrow. "That's humble. I looked you up, Merrick. Navy SEAL, black belt in 3 disciplines, combat instructor certified, 2 Bronze Stars, 1 with Valor device, 3 deployments before your 23rd birthday." Sloan said nothing. "Why didn't you say something?" Gunny asked. "Wasn't relevant." "Wasn't?" Gunny laughed, shaking her head. "Kid, that's the most relevant thing about you." "Respectfully, Gunny, I'm here to evaluate, not prove anything." "Fair enough," Gunny handed back the tablet. "But for what it's worth, you've got nothing to prove. Your record already did that." Sloan nodded once. "Appreciate it." She left the training center at 16:20 hours. The sun was setting, painting the California sky in shades of orange and purple. Long shadows stretched between buildings like dark fingers reaching across concrete. She took the shortcut through the old equipment wing. Quieter, faster, completely empty. Or so she thought. The first shoulder check came from behind, hard, deliberate, designed to send her stumbling forward. Sloan caught herself, spun around. Kavanaugh and his 2 shadows stood there, Dalton on the left, Holt on the right. Classic flanking. Amateur hour. "Oops," Kavanaugh said, grinning. "Didn't see you there." Sloan straightened. "Move." "Or what?" Holt circled left. Dalton moved right, boxing her in. Predictable. Boring. Dangerous. "Last chance," Sloan said quietly. "Walk away." "Oh?" Kavanaugh stepped forward. "Threatening me?" "No, warning you. Big difference." "Huge, huh?" He lunged. Not a punch, a shove. Hard. Designed to humiliate, not injure. Designed to make her stumble, make her weak, make her afraid. Sloan absorbed it, stepped back, reset her stance. Didn't retaliate. "What's wrong?" Kavanaugh taunted. "Scared?" Holt moved closer. "Maybe she can't fight. Maybe she's all talk." Sloan's pulse stayed steady, breathing controlled. She'd been in worse situations, much worse. Fallujah firefights, Syrian ambushes, Horn of Africa close quarters combat. But this wasn't combat, this was politics, and politics required patience. "I'm giving you one more chance," she said, voice calm, clear. "Walk away right now. No report, no consequences. Kavanaugh's grin widened. You're going to report us? For what? Assault? Assault? He looked at his crew, laughing. Did you hear that? She thinks this is assault. It will be, Sloan said quietly, if you don't leave. Yeah? Prove it. Then he made his mistake. The kick came fast, not trained, but vicious. Aimed low, then redirected upward at the last second. It caught her jaw. Pain exploded through Sloane's face like white phosphorus. She felt something crack. Tooth or bone, she couldn't tell. Blood filled her mouth instantly, warm and thick and tasting like metal and failure. The world tilted, her vision blurred. Every instinct screamed at her to fight back, to use the 17 techniques she'd been trained to deploy, to put Kavanaugh on the ground in 4 seconds or less. But she didn't. She just stood there, blood dripping from her split lip, and looked at him, really looked at him. Kavanaugh's grin faltered because there was no fear in her eyes, no shock, no anger, just cold, absolute calculation. You done? Sloan asked. Her voice was steady despite the blood. Kavanaugh blinked. What? I said, are you done? Silence filled the equipment wing. Dalton and Holt shifted uncomfortably. They'd expected tears, expected her to run, expected submission. Not this. Because if you are, Sloan continued, spitting blood onto the concrete floor, then get out of my way. She walked past them, slowly, deliberately, not running, not hiding, walking, like nothing had happened, like they were nothing. Kavanaugh stood there, fists clenched, breathing hard. That's it? He called after her. You're just going to walk away? Sloan didn't turn around, didn't answer, just kept walking. Behind her, she heard Holt whisper, Dude, what the hell? Shut up, Kavanaugh snapped. But his voice had changed. Uncertainty, confusion. Good. Let him wonder. Let him worry. Because Sloan Merrick had just given him the only warning he'd ever get. And when the time came, when she finally acted, there would be no second chances. The medical bay was quiet at 1700 hours. The duty corpsman, hospital corpsman, first class Janet Reardon, looked up from her paperwork when Sloan walked in. Then she saw the blood. Jesus Christ. Janet was around the desk in seconds. What happened? Who did this? Need documentation, Sloan said, words slightly slurred from the swelling. X-rays, dental molds, photographs, time-stamped. Janet guided her to an exam table. Lieutenant, you need to tell me who... Documentation first, questions later. Janet hesitated, then nodded. She'd been Navy for 20 years. She knew when to push and when to follow orders. The exam took 40 minutes. X-rays showed a hairline fracture of the mandible, non-displaced, thankfully. Tooth number 14 was cracked, but salvageable. Soft tissue trauma consistent with blunt force impact. Janet documented everything with the thoroughness of someone who'd seen too many assault cases swept under the rug. You need to file a report, Janet said gently, reviewing the digital images. Whoever did this, I will. When? When it's time. Janet paused, studying Sloane's face. Honey, if someone attacked you, they did. Then you need to... I know what I need to do, Sloan said quietly. Trust me. Janet sighed but didn't push. At least let me document this properly, for when you're ready. Thank you, Petty Officer Reardon. That's exactly what I need. As Janet worked, Sloan pulled out her phone. Encrypted message from Ghost Actual. Heard you checked into medical. Status? Sloan typed back. Minor incident. Documented. Proceeding as planned. Need extraction? Negative. Just getting started. Stay sharp, Phantom 6. Sloan pocketed her phone. Phantom 6. Her call sign from SEAL Team Operations. The number she'd earned through 3 deployments and more firefights than she cared to remember. But this mission was different. No bullets, no bombs, just bureaucracy and patience and the slow grind of justice. That evening, she sat in her barracks and opened her leather notebook, wrote down everything: time, location, witnesses, the exact sequence of events, the words spoken, the violence deployed. Then she opened her laptop and uploaded the footage. Because Kavanaugh didn't know it yet, but Sloan had been wearing a body camera, disguised as her name tag clip. Military grade, night vision capable, audio enhanced. 47 minutes of HD footage. Every word, every threat, every moment of violence. She watched it twice. Clinical, detached, making sure the angles were clear, making sure a jury, if it came to that, would see exactly what happened. Then she encrypted it and sent it to 3 locations. Ghost Actual, the Judge Advocate General's office, and her personal backup server, Insurance. Friday morning came with whispers. Did you hear? New girl got jumped. Kavanaugh and his boys. She reported? Doesn't look like it. Sloan heard every word as she walked through the chow hall. Her jaw was bruised now, deep purple spreading from her chin to her cheekbone. The swelling had gone down slightly, but the damage was obvious. She didn't hide it, didn't cover it with makeup or turn her face away. She sat at the same corner table, same black coffee, same leather notebook. A few heads turned. Most looked away, but one didn't. Master Chief Garrett Sullivan walked straight to her table and sat down without asking. He was 62 years old, face weathered by 3 decades of sun and salt in combat, silver hair cut high and tight, eyes that had seen too much and remembered all of it. Bennett, he said, using her cover name. Master Chief, you planning to tell me what happened, or do I need to pull the medical report myself? Sloan looked up from her notebook. It's handled. Doesn't look handled. It will be. Hawk, that's what everyone called him, a call sign from his Gulf War days. Leaned back in his chair, studying her. You know I can make this go away. One word from me, Kavanaugh's out. All 3 of them. I know. Then why haven't you asked? Because that's not how this needs to end, Sloan said quietly. Hawk's eyes narrowed. What's that mean? It means they need to understand what they did wrong, not just face consequences, understand. And you think you can teach them that? I know I can. For a long moment, Hawk said nothing. Then he leaned forward, voice low. I know who you are, Lieutenant. BUD/S Class 317. 2 Bronze Stars. Deployment record that would make most admirals jealous. You're not here to evaluate integration protocols. Sloan's expression didn't change. Master Chief, you're here because someone high up the chain wants to fix a problem, and they sent a weapon to do it. He paused. Question is, what kind of weapon are you? The kind that destroys or the kind that builds? Sloan met his eyes. Both, depending on what's needed. Hawk almost smiled. Good answer. He stood. Monday, you're on the schedule as lead instructor. Advanced combat integration. Kavanaugh's team is on your roster. I saw. You sure you want this? Positive. Then make it count, because if you don't, I will. He walked away, leaving Sloan alone with her coffee and her bruises and her plan. The weekend passed in preparation. Saturday, Sloan went to the gym, found it empty. Good. She wrapped her hands, taped her knuckles, and hit the heavy bag for 90 minutes straight. Combinations, precision strikes, no wasted movement. Her jaw ached with every exhale. She didn't stop. Pain was temporary, preparation wasn't. Sunday brought a different kind of visitor. Private Dylan Mitchell, 19 years old, skinny, nervous. He found Sloan at the combative center, drilling takedowns on a training dummy. Ma'am, he said, voice shaking slightly. Sloan paused mid-movement. Yeah? I wanted to say, he trailed off, struggling. Spit it out, Marine. I saw what happened. Thursday, in the equipment wing. I was in the bay, heard the whole thing, and I should have stopped it, should have helped, but he looked down. I froze. What's your name? Mitchell, ma'am, private first class. Mitchell, look at me. He did. You think stepping in would have helped? I don't know. It wouldn't have. They would have gone after you next. Then we'd have two victims instead of one. But you got hurt. I got documented evidence, Sloan corrected. There's a difference. Mitchell blinked. You wanted them to hit you? I wanted them to make a choice. They made it. Now they live with it. But your face will heal. Their records won't. Sloan went back to the dummy. You want to help me, Mitchell? Yes, ma'am. Then Monday, when they realize who I am and what I do, you keep your mouth shut and your eyes open. Watch how people react when their assumptions get destroyed. Who are you? Sloan almost smiled. You'll find out, same time as everyone else. After Mitchell left, Sloan finished her drills, stretched, meditated for 20 minutes, cleared her mind. Then she went back to her barracks and reviewed her lesson plan one final time. Monday was coming, and with it, the moment everything changed. That night her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Message preview made her pause. Monday's going to be fun. Can't wait to see you try to give orders. BK, Bryce Kavanaugh. He'd somehow gotten her number. Sloan stared at the message for 5 seconds, then deleted it without responding. He wanted a reaction. She wouldn't give him one. Not yet. Sunday evening, 2100 hours. Sloan sat on her rack, staring at her reflection in the small mirror mounted above her footlocker. The bruise had darkened. Deep purple, almost black near the jawline. Her lip had healed slightly, but the split was still visible. She looked like someone who'd lost a fight. Perfect. Let them think that. Let them walk in tomorrow expecting weakness, expecting submission, expecting her to fold under pressure. Because the distance between expectation and reality, that's where transformation happened. That's where pride died and understanding began. She thought about every lesson that had brought her here. The cold Pacific waters, the surf torture, the instructors who tried to break her. Tomorrow, Kavanaugh would learn what it meant to face someone truly unbreakable. Sloan closed her eyes, breathed deep, centered herself. In 12 hours, everything would change. In 12 hours, Bryce Kavanaugh would learn what a Navy SEAL truly meant. And she couldn't wait. Monday morning, 05:45 hours. Sloan stood in front of the training facility waiting. Olive drab shirt, multi-cam pants, hair pulled back tight. The bruise on her jaw was on full display now, dark purple fading to yellow at the edges. A badge of violence she wore without shame. The California sun hadn't yet cleared the eastern mountains. The air was cold, sharp, tasting of desert dust and diesel exhaust from the motor pool. Sloan breathed it in, held it, released it slowly. Controlled breathing. The first thing they taught you in SEAL training: control your breath, control your heart rate. Control your heart rate, control your mind. Control your mind, control the battlefield. And this was a battlefield, just a different kind. At 0600 hours, the new schedule posted on the main board inside the facility. Sloan heard the reaction through the open doors. What the hell? No way, this has to be a mistake. Says here, Lieutenant Sloan Merrick, lead instructor, advanced combat integration. Footsteps rushed to the board. Voices overlapped like crashing waves. Lieutenant? I thought she was admin. Does it say her rate? A pause, then quieter, filled with something that might have been fear. Naval Special Warfare Operator. Special Warfare? That's SEAL. She's a goddamn SEAL. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Sloan didn't move, didn't react to the commotion inside, just waited. Patient. Still. The way a sniper waits in a hide site for days, watching, barely breathing, becoming part of the landscape. At 0615, they started filing out. 30 Marines. Different ranks, different specialties, all of them staring at her like she'd grown a second head. Kavanaugh was near the back. His face had gone pale, jaw tight, fists clenched at his sides. When his eyes met hers, Sloan saw something flicker there. Recognition, fear, denial. The mental gymnastics of a man realizing he just stepped on a landmine. When everyone was assembled in formation, 3 ranks of 10, spacing perfect despite the shock, Sloan spoke. "Good morning." A few mumbled responses. Most stayed silent. "My name is Lieutenant Junior Grade Sloan Merrick. Call sign Phantom 6. For the next 2 weeks, I'll be evaluating your performance in close quarters combat and threat response integration." She paused, letting it sink in. "This isn't training, this is assessment. Pass, fail, no retakes." The formation shifted, boots scraping on concrete, uncomfortable energy rippling through the ranks. "Questions?" A hand went up. Lance Corporal Dalton, one of Kavanaugh's crew from Thursday. His voice came out smaller than he probably intended. "Ma'am, how old are you?" 22. Murmurs rippled through the formation. She was younger than half the people standing in front of her. "You're younger than most of us," Dalton continued. "What makes you qualified to evaluate us?" Sloan met his eyes. 3 deployments, 2 combat theaters, black belt in 3 disciplines, combat instructor certification. She paused. "Anything else?" Dalton's mouth opened, closed. No words came. "Good. Formation. Now." They moved. Slowly, reluctantly, but they moved. Sloan walked down the line, observing, posture, spacing, eye contact, the little things that separated professionals from amateurs. When she reached Kavanaugh, she stopped. He stared straight ahead, jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping, fists white-knuckled at his sides. "Corporal Kavanaugh." "Ma'am." "How's your striking accuracy?" His eyes flicked to her bruised jaw, then away. Quick, guilty. "Adequate, ma'am." "Adequate." Sloan nodded slowly. "We'll test that today. See if you're right." She moved on before he could respond. Let him sweat. Let him wonder. At the center of the formation, she turned to face them all. "Here's how this works. I call you up. You demonstrate competency. I evaluate. Simple." She pointed to the training mat. Thick blue padding, regulation size. "First up, close quarters control. Defending against an aggressive opponent who initiates contact." She scanned the group. Let the tension build. Then, "Kavanaugh, you're first." Every head turned. 30 pairs of eyes locked on the corporal. Watching. Waiting. Kavanaugh's face went from pale to red in seconds. "Ma'am, Problem, Corporal?" "No, ma'am." "Then get on the mat." He walked forward, shoulders tight, movement stiff, like a man walking to his execution. When he reached the mat, Sloan turned to address the formation. "Watch carefully. This technique requires timing, not strength. Control, not aggression." She turned back to Kavanaugh. "Whenever you're ready, Corporal, initiate contact." Kavanaugh's hands trembled slightly. "Ma'am, I don't think—" "That wasn't a request. Initiate contact." The entire formation held its breath. Kavanaugh shifted his weight, then lunged. What happened next took exactly 2 seconds. Wrist redirect, hip rotation, center line displacement. Kavanaugh hit the mat face first, arm locked, zero leverage. His cheek pressed against the blue padding, one arm twisted behind his back at an angle that suggested pain without causing injury. Gasps erupted from the formation. Sloan held him there for 3 seconds. Let him feel it. Let everyone see it. Then released. Reset. Kavanaugh scrambled to his feet, face burning with humiliation. "Again," Sloan said calmly. "Ma'am, again." He lunged. Same result. Faster this time. Down in 1 second. More gasps, a few whispers, the sound of assumptions crumbling in real time. Sloan released him again. "Notice," she said to the formation, "I'm not using strength. I'm using his momentum against him. Basic principle. Any questions so far? No one spoke. Good. Kavanaugh, one more time. Kavanaugh's breathing was ragged now, humiliated, desperate. He lunged harder this time, putting his full weight into it. Sloan shifted differently. Shoulder throw. Clean. Textbook. Kavanaugh went airborne and crashed onto the mat with enough force to knock the wind from his lungs. She stood over him. Still think your accuracy is adequate, Corporal? He couldn't answer, couldn't breathe, just lay there gasping like a fish on dry land. Sloan looked at the formation. This is what happens when you confuse aggression with skill. Who's next? For 5 seconds, no one moved. Kavanaugh was still on the mat, gasping, face pressed against the canvas. The formation stood frozen, eyes wide, mouths shut. Then Private Mitchell stepped forward, the kid from the gym. "I'll go, ma'am." Sloan nodded. "Good. Get ready." Kavanaugh slowly pushed himself up, limping off the mat. His pride was shattered, but his eyes burned with something worse than anger. Humiliation. The kind that festers. The kind that makes men do stupid things. Mitchell took position opposite Sloan. He was nervous. She could see it in his stance. But he wasn't hostile. That made all the difference. "Initiate contact, Private." He moved carefully, telegraphing his intentions. Sloan redirected, controlled, brought him down smoothly. No pain, no injury, just demonstration. "Better," she said, helping him up. "You're thinking before acting. That's half the battle." Mitchell nodded, breathing hard but smiling slightly. "Who's next?" 3 more volunteered. Each one Sloan evaluated fairly. When they did well, she acknowledged it. When they failed, she showed them why. No mockery, no cruelty, just instruction. By 07:30, the mood had shifted. The Marines were watching her differently now, not with suspicion, with respect. All except Kavanaugh and his 2 shadows. They stood at the back, whispering, glaring. After the 5th demonstration, Sloan called a water break. 10 minutes, hydrate, then we moved to scenario-based evaluations. The formation scattered toward the water stations. Sloan stayed on the mat, stretching her shoulders, monitoring the group. That's when she saw him, Master Chief Garrett Sullivan, standing in the doorway, arms crossed, watching silently. Their eyes met briefly. Hawk nodded once. Approval. Then Kavanaugh's voice cut through the noise. "This is bullshit." Heads turned. Kavanaugh was near the back fence, loud enough for half the formation to hear. "She gets one lucky day, and suddenly she's qualified to evaluate us?" Dalton laughed nervously. "Dude, shut up." "Why? Because she embarrassed me? So what? That doesn't prove anything." "She's a SEAL," someone else muttered. "So? That just means she got through training. Doesn't mean she's better than us." Sloan heard every word. Didn't react. Hawk started to move forward. Sloan caught his eye and shook her head slightly. "Not yet. Let him talk. Let him dig." Kavanaugh got louder. "I'm serious. Half of you are acting like she's some kind of war hero. She's 22. What has she actually done? 3 deployments? Says who? You calling her a liar?" Mitchell asked quietly. "I'm saying we don't know her. We don't know what she's done. All we know is she can throw people on a mat. Big deal." Sloan checked her watch. 2 minutes left. Kavanaugh kept going. "And another thing, why is she even here? Evaluating Marines? Since when does Navy run our training programs?" "Joint integration," Mitchell said. "It's literally in the title. I don't care what it's called. It's wrong." Sloan spoke then, calm and clear from across the training area. "Breaks over. Formation." The group moved quickly, grateful for the interruption. Kavanaugh took his time, making a show of his defiance. When everyone was assembled, Sloan addressed them. "For the next phase, you'll work in pairs. 1 attacker, 1 defender. Switch roles every 3 minutes. I'll rotate through and evaluate technique, control, and adaptability." She scanned the group. "Kavanaugh, Dalton, you're up first. Dalton's face went pale. Ma'am. Problem, Lance Corporal? No, ma'am. Then get on the mat. Kavanaugh smirked. Finally, an opponent he could handle. They squared off. Begin. Kavanaugh went hard immediately, overwhelming Dalton with aggression. No technique, just force. Dalton defended poorly, getting thrown twice in 30 seconds. Sloan blew the whistle. Stop. Both Marines froze. Kavanaugh, what did you just demonstrate? Effective offense, ma'am. Wrong. You demonstrated lack of control. She turned to Dalton. Why did you fail? Dalton hesitated. I wasn't strong enough. Also wrong. You weren't thinking. Sloan gestured to the mat. Both of you reset. This time, Kavanaugh, I want you to control your opponent without injuring him. Dalton, I want you to anticipate and redirect. They went again, slightly better, but Kavanaugh was still forcing instead of flowing. Sloan rotated to the next pair, then the next, correcting, adjusting, teaching. By 0900 hours, most of the group was improving, learning, growing. Kavanaugh wasn't. Every technique she showed him, he muscled through. Every correction, he ignored. He wasn't learning, he was enduring, waiting for this humiliation to end so he could lick his wounds in private. At 0930, Sloan called for a final demonstration. I need 2 volunteers for a full-speed scenario. Attacker and defender, realistic aggression, full contact. Silence. Then Kavanaugh raised his hand. I'll do it. Sloan looked at him. You sure, Corporal? Positive, ma'am. And your partner? Dalton started to raise his hand, but Kavanaugh cut him off. I don't need a partner. I'll go against you. The formation tensed. Hawk stepped forward from the doorway. Lieutenant, you don't have to. It's fine, Master Chief. Sloan looked at Kavanaugh. You want a full contact scenario, Corporal? Yes, ma'am. You understand that means I won't be holding back. Neither will I. Sloan almost smiled. Almost. All right, everyone off the mat, give us space. The Marines scrambled back, forming a wide circle. Hawk moved to the edge, hand near his radio, ready to call this off if it went sideways. Sloan and Kavanaugh faced each other in the center. Rules, Sloan said clearly. First person to submit or tap out loses. Excessive force results in disqualification. Understood? Understood. Then whenever you're ready, Corporal. Kavanaugh didn't hesitate. He lunged fast, aiming for a tackle. Sloan sidestepped, redirected his momentum. He stumbled past her. He recovered quickly, came again. This time she let him close the distance, testing his grappling. Sloppy, predictable. She broke his grip, spun behind him, locked his arm. He struggled, trying to power out. She applied pressure. Not enough to injure, just enough to hurt. Tap out, Kavanaugh. No. Tap out. Make me. She increased pressure. His shoulder joints strained. He gasped, but he didn't tap. Stubborn. Stupid. Sloan released him and stepped back. You're done. I'm not done. Yes, you are. You just prove you can't recognize when you're beaten. That's a failure. Kavanaugh's face flushed red. I didn't tap. You should have. That's the problem. One more round. No. I said one more round. He lunged again. Wild. Reckless. Desperation overriding training. Sloan didn't redirect this time. She met him head-on. Elbow strike to the solar plexus. Not hard, just precise. Kavanaugh doubled over. Wind knocked out. Before he could recover, she had him in a rear naked choke. Not tight enough to choke, just tight enough to control. Her forearm across his throat, other hand behind his head, body weight leveraged perfectly. She leaned close to his ear, whispered so only he could hear. Listen to me very carefully, Corporal. You can hate me all you want, but you will not disrespect this training. You will not endanger your fellow Marines with reckless behavior, and you will not mistake my patience for weakness. She paused. Let it sink in. Are we clear? Kavanaugh couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Sloan held him there for 3 more seconds, then released. He collapsed onto the mat, coughing, gasping. The formation was silent. Sloan looked at them. That concludes today's evaluation. Dismissed. They scattered immediately, whispering, glancing back at Kavanaugh. Hawk approached as Sloan helped Kavanaugh to his feet. You okay, Corporal? Hawk asked. Kavanaugh nodded, humiliated, broken. Then get to medical. Have them check you out. He stumbled away without a word. When he was gone, Hawk turned to Sloan. That was a risk. I know. Could have gone sideways. It didn't. Hawk studied her. You knew he'd lose control. I counted on it. Why? Because losing control in training means learning. Losing control in combat means dying. Sloan paused. I'd rather he learn here. Hawk nodded slowly. You're either brilliant or insane. Little bit of both, Master Chief. For the first time, Hawk smiled. I'm starting to see why they gave you that trident. That afternoon, Sloan was in her barracks reviewing notes when someone knocked. Come in. Mitchell stepped inside, nervous. Ma'am, sorry to bother you. What is it, Private? It's about Kavanaugh. He paused. I heard him talking to his friends. He's not done with you. Sloan set down her tablet. Let him talk. No, ma'am. I mean, he's planning something. I heard him on the phone. He said Monday was just the beginning. When? Tonight, maybe, or tomorrow. He didn't say exactly. Where? I don't know, but ma'am, he's really angry. I know, that's the point. Mitchell blinked. You want him to come after you? I want him to make a choice, same as before. But what if he actually hurts you? Sloan looked at him directly. Private, do you really think he can? Mitchell hesitated. No, ma'am. Then trust me, if Kavanaugh wants a second round, he'll get one. And this time, there'll be consequences he can't walk away from. Mitchell nodded slowly, still uncertain but trusting her. After he left, Sloan sat in silence. She knew Kavanaugh wasn't done. Men like him never were. Pride wounded was worse than pride intact. He'd come for her again. The only question was when. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message. Parking lot C, 2200 hours. Just you and me. Come alone or everyone knows you're scared. Sloan stared at it, then checked the facility map on her tablet. Parking lot C, isolated, old section of the base, no cameras. Kavanaugh was making it easy. Too easy. She typed back, I'll be there, then forwarded the entire message thread to Hawk with a single note. Might need backup on standby. Don't intervene unless absolutely necessary. Hawk responded immediately. You're insane, and I respect that. I'll be ready. Sloan pocketed her phone and checked the time. 2100 hours. 1 hour until the meeting. 1 hour to prepare. She changed into dark PT gear, tied her boots tight, checked her phone, recording audio automatically now, triggered by keywords in Kavanaugh's message. Not admissible in court probably, but good for leverage. At 21:45, she walked toward parking lot C. The night was cold. Desert temperature dropping fast after sunset. Stars visible overhead. The Milky Way streaking across the sky like a wound. Parking lot C was at the edge of the facility. Old asphalt cracked and broken. Sodium lights casting everything in sickly orange. A few abandoned vehicles rusting in corners. And in the center, Kavanaugh. But not alone. Dalton and Holt flanked him, plus 3 men Sloan didn't recognize. Civilians, judging by their clothes. Tattoos visible on arms. The kind of guys you hire when you want something done that you can't do yourself. 6 on 1. Sloan stopped 10 feet away. You said just you and me, Kavanaugh. Yeah, well, he shrugged. I lied. So you brought backup, 5 guys, because you can't handle 1 woman.
Shut up.
One of the civilians stepped forward. Big, 220 maybe, neck thick as a tree trunk. You the SEAL? Who's asking? Someone who doesn't give a shit about your rank. He cracked his knuckles. Bryce here paid us good money to teach you a lesson. Nothing personal. How much? 5 grand. Each. Sloan did the math. $15,000. Kavanaugh had spent $15,000 to have her beaten. That was commitment. Stupid, illegal commitment, but commitment nonetheless. Last chance, Sloan said. All of you. Walk away right now. No consequences. Kavanaugh laughed. You're surrounded 6-1 and you're giving us chances? Not a chance. A warning. Yeah? Or what? You'll report us? No, Sloan said quietly. I'll end you. The big civilian laughed. Tough words for someone about to... Sloan moved, not toward Kavanaugh, toward the nearest civilian, the one talking. He was big, slow, predictable. She closed distance in 3 steps. He swung a haymaker. She ducked under it, drove her palm into his solar plexus. Hard, precise, all her weight behind it. He went down, gasping, out of the fight. 4 seconds. The second civilian rushed her, smaller, faster, pulled a knife from his belt. Sloan sidestepped the slash, caught his wrist, twisted. The knife clattered to the asphalt. She swept his leg, elbow to the back of his head as he fell. He hit concrete and didn't move. 7 seconds. Holt charged, football tackle. Sloan dropped her center of gravity, let him commit, then redirected, used his momentum. Hip throw. He crashed into the side of a rusted pickup truck, dent in the door, unconscious. 11 seconds. Dalton and the third civilian came together. Coordination. Better. Sloan backpedaled, creating space. The civilian swung a tire iron. She dodged left. The iron hit asphalt with a spark. Dalton tried to grab her from behind. She snapped her head back, felt it connect with his nose, heard the crack. He fell away, hands over his face. The civilian with the tire iron swung again, horizontal, aimed at her ribs. Sloan caught the iron mid-swing, yanked it toward her. The civilian stumbled forward. She drove her knee into his groin. He dropped. 18 seconds. That left Kavanaugh. He stood alone now, 5 bodies on the ground around him, some groaning, some unconscious, all out of the fight. Sloan walked toward him, slow, deliberate, no rush. Kavanaugh's hands shook. You can't what? Sloan stopped 5 feet away. Can't defend myself? Can't fight back when 6 men attack me? We were just what, Kavanaugh? Just trying to teach me a lesson? Just trying to put me in my place? She tilted her head. How's that working out? He tried to run. Sloan caught him in 3 strides. Ankle sweep. He went down hard, face on asphalt. She put a knee between his shoulder blades, pulled his arm back into a lock. Here's what's going to happen, she said quietly. You're going to confess everything. The first assault, this ambush, the money, all of it. I won't. She increased pressure on his shoulder. You will. Because if you don't, I'll make sure every Marine on this base knows you hired civilians to fight your battles. That you paid $15,000 because you couldn't beat one woman. Kavanaugh whimpered. But if you confess, Sloan continued, if you take responsibility, I'll recommend leniency. 5 years instead of 10. Maybe even suspended discharge if you complete probation. Why? His voice was broken, small. Why would you do that? Because I don't want to destroy you, Kavanaugh. I want you to learn. She released the pressure slightly. But that only works if you choose to change. So what's it going to be? He was crying now, full sobs. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll confess. I'll do whatever you want. Just please. Sloan released him, stood, pulled out her phone. The entire conversation was recorded. Footsteps approached from the shadows. Hawk emerged, followed by two military police officers. They'd been watching the whole time, waiting for Sloane's signal. "Master Chief," Sloane said, "please escort Corporal Kavanaugh to the MPs. He has a statement to make." Hawk looked at the 5 bodies on the ground, then at Sloane. Not a scratch on her. "You good, Lieutenant?" "Never better." The MPs approached Kavanaugh, read him his rights, handcuffed him. As they led him away, he looked back at Sloane one last time. "Why didn't you just kill me?" he asked, voice hollow. "You could have. In the equipment wing. Just now. Why didn't you?" Sloane met his eyes. "Because killing you would have made you a victim. This way, you're just accountable." They took him away. The big civilian was regaining consciousness, groaning. Sloane knelt beside him. "You're going to want to cooperate," she said. "Tell the MPs everything. Who hired you? How much? When? All of it. You do that, maybe they go easy on conspiracy charges." He nodded weakly. Hawk helped Sloane to her feet. 6 on 1. You didn't even break a sweat. They were civilians, untrained. This wasn't a fight, it was a demonstration. Demonstration of what? That I can protect myself. Sloane looked at him. That women don't need men to rescue them. We just need men to stay out of our way. Hawk laughed. Actually laughed. "You sound like my daughter. She used to say the same thing." Sloane's expression softened. "I would have liked to meet her. She would have liked you too." Hawk paused. "Come on, let's get you checked out at medical. Protocol." "I'm fine." "That wasn't a request, Lieutenant." They walked back toward the main facility. Behind them, MPs were securing the scene, photographing, documenting, building a case that would end Kavanaugh's career and possibly land him in military prison. Sloane felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not satisfaction, not victory, peace. Because justice wasn't about winning, it was about balance. And for the first time since she'd arrived at Falcon Ridge, the balance felt right. The next morning, the entire base knew. Word spread fast in military installations. By 0600 hours, everyone had heard some version of the story. The details changed with each retelling. Some said it was 10 attackers. Some said Sloane had broken bones. But the core truth remained. Lieutenant Sloan Merrick had been ambushed by 6 men and walked away without a scratch. Sloane sat in her usual corner of the chow hall. Same table, same black coffee. But this time when she walked in, something was different. 3 Marines stood, then 5, then 12. By the time she reached her table, half the room was on their feet. She stopped, confused. Hawk appeared at her side, coffee in hand. "They're showing respect, Lieutenant. Let them." Sloane nodded slowly, uncertain how to process it. She sat. They sat. But the atmosphere had fundamentally shifted. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was visible, acknowledged, respected. Mitchell appeared at her table minutes later, tray in hand. "Ma'am, mind if I join you?" "Go ahead." He sat, nervous but determined. "I just wanted to say, what you did last night, that took guts. It took patience, not the same thing. Still, most people would have just reported Kavanaugh after the first assault. Let the system handle it." "The system would have handled it wrong," Sloane said quietly. "He needed to understand why he was wrong, not just face punishment." "Do you think he does? Understand, I mean?" "I don't know yet, but he had the chance. That's more than most people get." Mitchell nodded, processing. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "When Kavanaugh kicked you Thursday in the corridor, why didn't you fight back then?" Sloane sipped her coffee. "Because fighting in that moment would have made me look defensive, aggressive. It would have given him ammunition to claim I was the threat. But you were alone, no witnesses. He could have really hurt you." "He did hurt me." Sloane touched her jaw gently, still tender. "But he also made a choice, and I documented it. That documentation became evidence. Evidence became accountability. So you were thinking 10 steps ahead. I was thinking about what justice actually looks like, and it's not always immediate. Mitchell sat with that for a moment. Then he said quietly, I want to learn how to do that. Think like that. Then stop reacting and start observing. Most people fight with their emotions. You'll win more battles with your mind. He smiled slightly. Is that something they teach in SEAL training? No, that's something life teaches you when you've been underestimated enough times. At 0900 hours, Sloan was called to the company commander's office. Captain Williams, career officer, mid-40s, graying hair, sharp eyes. Lieutenant Merrick, sit. Yes, sir, she sat. Williams reviewed a file on his desk, said nothing for a long moment. Then he looked up. I've reviewed everything. The medical reports, the witness statements, the video footage, the audio recordings. He paused. This is without question one of the clearest cases of assault and premeditated violence I've seen in 15 years. Sloan waited. Corporal Kavanaugh initiated contact on 2 separate occasions. Threatened you. Hired civilians to assault a federal officer. The evidence is overwhelming. Yes, sir. You could press for maximum charges, full court-martial. Kavanaugh would be dishonorably discharged, possibly serve 10 years at Leavenworth. Sloan was quiet. But you're not going to, are you? No, sir. Why not? She chose her words carefully. Because Kavanaugh made mistakes, bad ones, but I don't believe he's beyond learning from them. A dishonorable discharge doesn't teach, it just destroys. Williams leaned back. That's generous. It's practical, sir. Kavanaugh is young, stupid, insecure, but not evil. With the right guidance, he could still be a good Marine. And if he doesn't learn, the system will handle him next time. But I want him to have that chance. Williams nodded slowly. All right, here's what's going to happen. Kavanaugh will receive non-judicial punishment under Article 15. Reduction in rank, forfeiture of pay, mandatory counseling, and anger management. He'll be reassigned to a different unit, and he'll be on probation for 12 months. Understood, sir. Dalton and Holt will receive written reprimands and suspended rank advancement for 6 months. Yes, sir. Williams closed the file. For the record, Lieutenant, you handled this perfectly. Textbook self-defense. Perfect documentation. Zero excessive force. I'm putting you in for a commendation. That's not necessary, sir. It's already done. He stood, extended his hand. You're a credit to the Navy, Lieutenant. Sloan stood, shook his hand. Thank you, sir. As she left the office, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not relief, not vindication, closure. Because justice wasn't about winning, it was about balance. And for the first time since she'd arrived at Falcon Ridge, the balance felt right. 2 weeks passed like water through fingers. Sloan completed her evaluations. 28 Marines passed. 2 failed, not for lack of skill, but for lack of control. The kind of aggression that got people killed in real combat. She pulled them aside after the final assessment, gave them specific areas to work on, scheduled them for retesting in 30 days. They listened. Actually listened. Not because she was harsh, but because she was fair. Word had spread beyond Falcon Ridge. Other installations were asking questions. How did a 22-year-old female SEAL turn a toxic training environment into a model program? How did she document everything so thoroughly that the case against Kavanaugh was airtight? How did she survive a 6-on-1 assault without throwing a single unnecessary punch? The answer was simple, patience. But simple didn't mean easy. On a Thursday morning in early April, Sloan received orders to report to Building 7. Classified Annex. High security clearance required. She'd been there once before, during her initial briefing for Ghost Protocol. The guard at the entrance checked her ID twice, scanned her retinas, finally waved her through. Inside, the building was all concrete and fluorescent lights. Sterile, cold. The kind of place where secrets went to die or be reborn. A woman waited in conference room C, mid-40s, expensive suit, government badge on her belt, but not military, something else. Lieutenant Merrick, thank you for coming. The woman gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Sloan sat. Ma'am, I wasn't given much information about this meeting. That's intentional. The woman slid a folder across the table. My name is Sarah Vance. I'm with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Specifically, I handle recruitment for specialized programs. Sloan didn't touch the folder. What kind of programs? The kind that don't officially exist. Vance leaned back. Your ghost protocol assignment exposed systemic failures at 14 military installations. Congress is already drafting legislation based on your report. The Merrick Protocol, they're calling it. Mandatory reporting structures, independent oversight, real consequences for command failures. That's good news. It is, and it's because of you. Vance paused. Which brings me to why I'm here. We'd like to offer you a position. With ODNI? With a subdivision, Special Activities Division. You'd be working with CIA, but your commission would remain Navy. Technically, you'd be on extended temporary duty. Realistically, you'd be doing work that can't be done through official channels. Sloan finally opened the folder. Inside were photographs, locations she recognized from intelligence briefings. Syria, Yemen, North Africa, Russia, China. What kind of work? The kind where being a woman is an advantage, not a liability. Vance pulled out a specific photo, 3 women in burqas. 6 months ago, a warlord in Afghanistan started trafficking female soldiers, American contractors, some active duty. The official channels can't touch him. He's connected to regional governors, tribal leaders, even some of our allies. But unofficially, you want someone who can go places men can't. Exactly. Vance met Sloan's eyes. You've proven you can handle violence, document evidence under pressure, operate independently. That's exactly what we need. Sloan studied the photographs, satellite imagery of compounds, thermal scans of buildings, intelligence reports with sections redacted in black ink. What's the operational timeline? 6 weeks of specialized training, then deployment. Duration classified, but expect 12 to 18 months for the first assignment. And if I say no? Vance smiled slightly. Then you go back to your SEAL team. Continue doing excellent work. No hard feelings. This is an opportunity, Lieutenant, not an order. Sloan closed the folder. I need time to think. Of course, you have 48 hours. Vance stood. One more thing. There's someone who wants to speak with you. He's waiting in the adjacent conference room. Who? Master Chief Sullivan. I believe you know him. Sloan's expression didn't change, but something inside her shifted. Hawk. She hadn't seen him since the night of the parking lot incident. He'd been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Helping Sloan had technically violated several protocols. She found him in conference room D. He looked older than she remembered, tired, but his eyes were still sharp. Lieutenant, he said, standing when she entered. Master Chief, they told me you were on leave. I was, just got word this morning, forced retirement, effective immediately. He said it without emotion, just fact. Sloan felt something twist in her chest. Because of me, because of my choices. Hawk gestured to a chair. Sit, please. They sat across from each other, silent for a moment. They're offering you the CIA position, Hawk said. Not a question. How did you know? Because they approached me about it first, back when I was active, 1992, right after Desert Storm. He smiled faintly. I said no, stayed with the teams. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd said yes. Regret? No, just curiosity. Hawk leaned forward. Amanda, my daughter, she wanted to fly. Wanted it more than anything. I supported her, encouraged her. Even when people said women couldn't handle combat aviation, I told her to prove them wrong. Sloan waited. She did prove them wrong. Made it through flight school, top of her class, got her wings. First deployment, she was the best pilot in her squadron. His voice cracked slightly. But the harassment never stopped. Her CO, her wingman, even some of the ground crew, she reported it 3 times. Nothing happened. And then she crashed. Official report said, pilot error, bird strike during a training flight. But I saw the maintenance logs. Someone had signed off on an inspection that never happened. Someone who'd been harassing her for months. Hawk's hands were shaking now. I couldn't prove it, not enough evidence, not enough documentation. So she died, and he got transferred to another base. Sloan reached across the table, put her hand on his. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, be better. Hawk looked at her directly. You did what Amanda couldn't. You documented everything, built an airtight case, made sure Kavanaugh couldn't hide behind his uncle or the chain of command. You saved other people from going through what she went through. But you lost your career. I'm 62 years old. I was going to retire anyway. He smiled. Besides, I'm not losing my career. I'm starting a new one. What do you mean? Naval Special Warfare called me this morning. They want me to develop a training program, teaching new SEAL candidates, especially female candidates, about restraint under fire, how to document, how to fight smart instead of just fighting hard. He paused. They're calling it the Merrick Protocol. Sloan blinked. They're naming it after me? You earned it. Hawk pulled something from his pocket. A watch. Omega Seamaster. Battered. Scratched. The crystal cracked in one corner. I wore this during Desert Storm, February 24th, 1991. The ground invasion. I was with a SEAL team doing reconnaissance ahead of the Marine push. We got pinned down in a bunker complex. 30 minutes of the heaviest fighting I've ever seen. He turned the watch over. Engraved on the back, G. Sullivan, Kuwait, 1991. I took shrapnel that day, right here. He pointed to a scar on his forearm. Watch took some too. See this crack? That's from a ricochet. Should have hit my wrist. Hit the crystal instead. Hawk held the watch out to Sloan. I want you to have it. Master Chief, I can't. You can, and you will. His voice was firm. Amanda should have had it, but she's gone. And you're the warrior I hoped she'd become. The kind who fights with her mind as much as her body. The kind who knows when violence is necessary and when patience is stronger. Sloan took the watch. It was heavier than she expected. The weight of history, of sacrifice, of survival. Thank you, she said quietly. Don't thank me, just promise me something. What? Whatever you choose, SEAL team or CIA or something else entirely, promise me you'll keep doing what you did here, standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves, being the warrior Amanda wanted to be. Sloan looked at the watch, at the crack in the crystal, at the engraving worn smooth by 30 years of wear. I promise. They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Hawk stood, extended his hand. Sloan stood, shook it. Hoo-yah, Lieutenant. Hoo-yah, Master Chief. He left, and Sloan was alone with a watch and a choice. That evening, she found Mitchell in the combative center. He was drilling takedowns on a training dummy, movement still choppy but committed. Private, she called. He stopped mid-throw. Ma'am, didn't see you there. Your hip rotation's off. You're telegraphing the movement. Tighten it up. He adjusted. Threw again. Better. Can I ask you something? Mitchell said, catching his breath. Go ahead. Are you leaving? Sloan paused. What makes you think that? People are talking, saying you got offered some kind of special assignment, classified. He looked at her directly. Is it true? She could have lied. Should have, probably. Operational security. Need to know basis. But Mitchell had earned honesty. It's true. Are you going to take it? I don't know yet. Mitchell nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I hope you stay. This place, it's different since you got here. Better. People actually give a shit about doing things right now, not just looking tough. That's not because of me. That's because of you. All of you. You chose to learn instead of fighting the process. You gave us a reason to learn. Mitchell wiped sweat from his forehead. Before you showed up, it was just about surviving, getting through the day, not causing problems. But you showed us that doing the right thing, even when it's hard, actually matters. Sloan felt something shift in her chest. Pride, maybe, or purpose. Keep training, she said. Tighten that rotation. You've got potential. Yes, ma'am. She left the center and walked toward the observation deck. The sun was setting over the California desert, orange and pink streaking across the sky like watercolors bleeding together. Her phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. She almost deleted it, then saw the preview. Lieutenant Merrick, this is Catherine Kavanaugh, Bryce's mother. May I speak with you? Sloan stared at the message for 10 seconds, then replied, when and where? The response came immediately. Tomorrow, 1,000 hours, coffee shop off base, Maple Street, please. Sloan agreed. The next morning, she arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early. Force of habit, always recon the terrain before the meeting. It was a small place, local, the kind where everyone knew everyone. Sloan ordered black coffee and sat in a corner booth with sightlines to both exits. At exactly 10:00 hours, Catherine Kavanaugh walked in. She was 52 years old, but looked older. Worry lines etched deep around her eyes. Hair graying at the temples. She moved like someone carrying invisible weight. She spotted Sloan, walked over, sat down without asking permission. Mrs. Kavanaugh, Sloan said, Lieutenant Merrick, thank you for meeting me. Catherine's hands were shaking slightly. She wrapped them around a coffee cup the waitress brought over. I'm sure you're wondering why I asked you here. I am. I wanted to apologize for my son, for what he did to you, for the violence, the hatred, all of it. Catherine's voice cracked. I raised him better than that. At least, I tried to. Sloan said nothing. Let her talk. His father died in Iraq, 2007. Bryce was 12, too young to understand, too old not to feel it. Catherine wiped her eyes. Everyone told him he had to be strong, had to be the man of the house, had to live up to his father's legacy. I think that broke something inside him. That doesn't excuse what he did. I know. I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm not even asking you to understand him. Catherine looked up, met Sloan's eyes. I'm asking you to give him a chance to become better than what he is right now. The court-martial is out of my hands, Mrs. Kavanaugh. But your testimony isn't. The prosecutor told me you're recommending leniency. 5 years instead of 10. Suspended discharge if he completes probation. Catherine's hands tightened around the cup. Why? After everything he did to you, why would you show him mercy? Sloan thought about Amanda Sullivan, about the harassment that went unreported, about the crash that was called pilot error when it was really negligence, about all the people who'd suffered because the system failed them. Because punishment without rehabilitation is just revenge, Sloan said quietly, and revenge doesn't fix anything. It just creates more damage. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. You're 22 years old. You shouldn't be this wise. I've seen what happens when people don't get second chances, when the system just destroys them and moves on. Sloan paused. Your son made terrible choices, but he's not beyond saving. Not yet. And if I don't give him that chance, I'm no better than the people who failed Amanda Sullivan. Who's Amanda Sullivan? Someone who should have gotten a second chance and didn't. Catherine reached across the table, put her hand on Sloan's. Thank you for being better than the world deserves. Sloan pulled her hand back gently. I'm not better, Mrs. Kavanaugh. I'm just trying to be fair. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Catherine stood. Whatever you choose to do next, wherever life takes you, I hope you know you changed my son's life. Maybe saved it. She paused at the table. That matters. She left. Sloan sat alone with her coffee and her thoughts. The court-martial was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Sloan arrived in full dress uniform, Navy service dress blues, ribbons arranged perfectly, trident badge polished until it gleamed. The courtroom was military standard. No jury, just a military judge, Captain Hendricks, 30-year career officer, and the two attorneys, prosecutor, defense. Kavanaugh sat at the defense table. He'd lost weight, face gaunt, eyes hollow. He looked up when Sloan entered, then quickly looked away. The prosecutor called her first. Lieutenant Merrick, please describe the events of March 18th. Sloan did. Clinically, no emotion, just facts. Time, location, actions, outcomes. The prosecutor played the body camera footage. 47 seconds of HD evidence. The courtroom watched Kavanaugh's face on screen, rage twisting into shock as Sloan refused to fall. As she walked away, blood dripping, silent. Then the parking lot footage. 6 attackers, Sloan dismantling them in 18 seconds. When it ended, the courtroom was silent. Lieutenant, the prosecutor said, in your professional opinion, did Corporal Kavanaugh demonstrate premeditated intent to cause harm? Yes. And did he show remorse at any point prior to his arrest? No. Do you believe he poses a continued threat to female service members? Sloan paused. This was the moment she could end Kavanaugh's career with a single word. I believe he posed a threat, she said carefully. Past tense. Whether he continues to be a threat depends on whether he chooses to learn from this experience. The prosecutor frowned. But given his actions, objection, the defense attorney interrupted, calls for speculation. Sustained, Judge Hendricks said. The prosecutor tried again. Lieutenant Merrick, do you believe Corporal Kavanaugh deserves the maximum sentence? No. Silence. Can you explain why? Because maximum sentences don't rehabilitate, they punish. And while Corporal Kavanaugh absolutely needs to face consequences for his actions, I believe he also needs the opportunity to grow, to understand why what he did was wrong, to become better. The prosecutor looked frustrated. But he assaulted you, twice, hired civilians to attack a federal officer. He spent $15,000 to have you beaten. I'm aware. And you still don't want maximum punishment? I want justice, not revenge. There's a difference. The defense attorney was smart enough to not ask any questions on cross-examination. Sloan had just made their entire case for them. When she stepped down, Kavanaugh was staring at her. Not with hatred, with something else. Confusion, maybe, or the first stirrings of understanding. The judge took 30 minutes to deliberate. When he returned, his face was unreadable. Corporal Bryce Kavanaugh, please rise. Kavanaugh stood, hands shaking. This court finds you guilty of assault on a superior officer, conspiracy to commit assault, and conduct unbecoming. Ordinarily, these charges would carry a sentence of 10 years confinement and dishonorable discharge. Catherine Kavanaugh made a sound in the gallery, half sob, half gasp. However, Judge Hendricks continued, Lieutenant Merrick's testimony has given this court pause. Her recommendation for leniency, combined with your confession and cooperation with investigators, has led me to impose the following sentence. 5 years confinement, dishonorable discharge suspended pending successful completion of 3-year probation, mandatory psychological counseling, anger management, and you will write a formal letter of apology to every woman who filed a harassment complaint at Falcon Ridge during your tenure. Kavanaugh's knees almost gave out. Your Honor, I'm not finished, Corporal, or should I say, Private Kavanaugh. You are hereby reduced in rank to Private E1. forfeiture of all pay and allowances for the duration of your confinement. And when you complete your sentence, you will be reassigned to a unit where you will have zero authority over other personnel. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Then I hope you use this time to become the Marine your father would have been proud of. Dismissed. The bailiff led Kavanaugh away. As he passed Sloan, he stopped. I don't deserve your mercy, he said quietly. No, Sloan agreed. You don't. But you have it anyway. Don't waste it. He nodded once, then kept walking. Catherine Kavanaugh approached Sloan in the hallway after. She didn't say anything, just hugged her. Tight. Like Sloan had saved her son's life. Maybe she had. 3 days later, Sloan received a visitor in her barracks. Robert Kessler, CIA Special Activities Division. Lieutenant, he said, have you made your decision? Sloan looked at Hawk's watch on her wrist, the crack catching afternoon light. I have. And? I'm in, but I have conditions. Kessler raised an eyebrow. Go ahead. I want operational autonomy. I'm not taking orders from desk officers who've never been in the field. Granted. I want final say on mission parameters. If something feels wrong, I can abort without penalty. Within reason, granted. And I want Hawk, Master Chief Sullivan, brought on as a consultant. He's developing the Merrick Protocol training program. I want that funded properly, not just lip service. Kessler smiled slightly. You drive a hard bargain, Lieutenant. Take it or leave it. Taken. You start training in 6 weeks. Report to Harvey Point, North Carolina. Bring minimal gear. Everything else will be provided. He handed her a folder, thicker than the first one. More photographs, more intelligence reports. Your first assignment, Afghanistan. There's a warlord named Khalid Osmani. He's been trafficking female contractors. Some American, some European, all of them disappearing into compounds in the mountains. Kessler pointed to a satellite image. We can't touch him through official channels, but unofficially, you want me to get proof. I want you to get the women out. And if you happen to gather evidence in the process, even better. Sloan studied the photographs. Women in burqas, compound layouts, guard rotations. What's the timeline? Training ends in August, deployment in September. You'll have a small team, all female, all specialists, but you're in command. Rules of engagement? Defend yourself as necessary, but we'd prefer you bring Osmani in alive. He's connected to larger networks. We need him talking. Sloan closed the folder. I'll do it. Kessler stood, extended his hand. Welcome to the Special Activities Division, Lieutenant. They shook. After he left, Sloan sat on her rack and opened her leather notebook. The one she'd been carrying since Bud/S, filled with observations, lessons, moments. She wrote, April 23, 2018. Accepted CIA assignment, Afghanistan deployment. September, first command position. Hawk's words, be the warrior Amanda wanted to be. I'll try. She closed the notebook, looked at the watch again. 6 weeks until training. 6 weeks to prepare. 6 weeks to say goodbye to Falcon Ridge and hello to whatever came next. The final day came faster than expected. Sloan's bags were packed, gear stowed, orders processed. She was scheduled to leave at 1400 hours. A transport would take her to San Diego. From there, military flight to North Carolina. At noon, she walked toward the training facility one last time. The entire formation was waiting. 30 Marines, standing at attention. Mitchell, front and center. Sloan stopped. What's this? Mitchell stepped forward. Ma'am, on behalf of the integration program, we wanted to say thank you for your instruction, your patience, your example. You don't need to thank me. You did the work. You showed us what right looks like. Mitchell pulled something from his pocket, a challenge coin, custom made, Falcon Ridge insignia on one side. On the other, engraved words, strength through restraint, Phantom 6. We had these made, Mitchell said. All of us. pooled our money, wanted you to know that what you taught us, it'll stay with us. Sloan took the coin, turned it over in her hand. The weight of it, the meaning. I don't know what to say. Say you'll come back sometime. Check on us. Make sure we're doing it right. Sloan looked at the formation, at faces she'd come to know over 3 weeks. Some had failed her evaluations. Some had passed. All of them had learned. I'll come back, she promised. The formation didn't move, waiting for something. Then Dalton stepped forward, nose still slightly crooked from where Sloan had broken it in the parking lot. Behind him, Holt stood silent. He didn't approach, didn't speak, just nodded once, a gesture small enough to miss, meaningful enough to matter. Sloan nodded back. Some apologies didn't need words. "Ma'am, I need to say something," Dalton said. "Go ahead, Lance Corporal. I was there, with Kavanaugh, when he kicked you, and I didn't stop it. I was a coward." His voice was shaking now. "But you showed me what courage actually looks like. It's not about being loud or aggressive. It's about doing the right thing, even when it costs you." He rendered a salute. Crisp. Perfect. Sloan returned it. "You're not a coward anymore, Dalton. You're learning. That's all anyone can ask." The formation stood for another moment. Then without orders, they all saluted. 30 Marines, saluting a 22-year-old lieutenant who changed their world in 3 weeks. Sloan returned the salute, held it for 5 seconds, then dropped. "Dismissed." They dispersed, but Mitchell lingered. "Ma'am, can I ask you one more thing?" "Yeah. That place you're going, the classified assignment, is it dangerous?" Sloan thought about Afghanistan, about Khalid Osmani, about women disappearing into mountain compounds. "Yes." "Will you be okay?" "I'll be fine, Private. I've been trained for this." Mitchell nodded, but he didn't look convinced. "Just come back alive, okay? The world needs more people like you." Sloan put her hand on his shoulder. "The world needs more people like you, Mitchell. People who stand up when it matters. Keep being that person." "Yes, ma'am." She left the training facility and headed toward the parking lot. Hawk was waiting by a Jeep, civilian clothes now, retired. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be." They drove to the gate in silence, past buildings she'd come to know, past the chow hall where she'd been mocked, past the equipment wing where Kavanaugh had kicked her, past the parking lot where she'd fought 6 men and walked away, all of it fading in the rearview mirror. At the gate, Hawk stopped the Jeep. "You know," he said, "when I first saw you, I thought you were just another evaluation officer, checking boxes, filing reports. What changed your mind? The way you stood, the way you moved. You can't fake that. Bud/S leaves a mark." He smiled. "But more than that, it was how you handled Kavanaugh. Most people would have crushed him, destroyed him. You rebuilt him instead. I gave him a chance. He's the one who has to take it." "True, but you could have taken the easier path, the vindictive path. You didn't." Hawk put the Jeep in gear. "That's why I know you'll do good work with CIA, because you understand that the mission isn't just about winning. It's about what you leave behind." They drove through the gate, Falcon Ridge disappearing behind them. Sloan looked at the watch on her wrist. Hawk's watch now, 30 years of history. "Master Chief?" "Yeah?" "What happened to the guy who was harassing your daughter, the one who signed off on the faulty inspection?" Hawk was quiet for a moment. "He got transferred, promoted eventually, made lieutenant commander. Last I heard, he's at Naval Air Station Oceana." Sloan filed that information away. For later, for when she had the resources. "One day," she said quietly, "the people like him won't get away with it anymore." "I believe you." Hawk glanced at her. "And when that day comes, I'll be right there with you." They drove to San Diego in comfortable silence. At the airport, Hawk pulled her into a hug. "Stay safe out there, kid." "Hoo-yah, Master Chief." "Hoo-yah, Lieutenant." She walked toward the terminal. didn't look back. Looking back was for people who had regrets. Sloan Merrick had none. Fourth epilogue. 6 months later, September 2018, somewhere in the mountains of eastern Afghanistan, grid coordinates classified. Sloan crouched behind a rock outcropping, watching a compound through night vision binoculars. 3 guards visible, AK-47s, sloppy patrol patterns, predictable. Behind her, 3 women, all CIA, all specialists, waiting for her signal. Phantom 6 to base plate, Sloan whispered into her radio. Target compound in sight. Thermal shows 14 signatures inside. 20 possible hostages. 2 guards. Copy, Phantom 6. You are cleared for infiltration. Rules of engagement remain. Extract hostages. Minimal force. Osmani alive, if possible. Roger, baseplate. Beginning approach. She hand-signaled her team. They moved like ghosts, silent, efficient, exactly as trained. The operation took 18 minutes. They breached the compound, neutralized the guards, non-lethal, tranquilizer rounds. Secured the hostages, 12 women, 11 contractors, 1 American soldier who'd been missing for 6 months. And in the center of it all, Khalid Osmani, the warlord who thought he was untouchable. Sloan zip-tied his hands behind his back, pulled him to his feet. You are making a mistake, he said in accented English. I have powerful friends. They will kill you for this. Sloan looked at him, thought about Kavanaugh, about Amanda Sullivan, about every person who'd ever thought power made them invincible. Your friends can't protect you where you're going, she said quietly. They exfiltrated. All hostages accounted for. Osmani in custody, 0 friendly casualties, mission success. On the helicopter ride back to base, one of the rescued women grabbed Sloan's hand. Thank you, she said, crying. Thank you for not giving up on us. Sloan squeezed her hand. That's the job. But it wasn't just a job. It was purpose. It was Amanda Sullivan's legacy. It was Hawk's watch ticking on her wrist. It was Mitchell learning to think before fighting. It was Kavanaugh getting a second chance he didn't deserve, but desperately needed. It was all of it. 3 days after the operation, Sloan was in a safe house in Kabul, encrypted laptop open, writing her after-action report. Her phone buzzed. Secure line. Hawk's number. Master Chief. Lieutenant, heard about your operation. 12 hostages extracted. High-value target in custody. 0 casualties. That's damn good work. Team effort. Still, you led it. Pause. I'm proud of you, kid. Sloan felt something tighten in her chest. How's the training program going? Better than expected. Just graduated our first class. 6 female SEAL candidates. All of them passed using the Merrick protocol. Documentation, patience, fighting smart. Hawk's voice was warm. You started something, Sloan. Something that's going to save lives for decades. We started it together. Maybe, but you're the one carrying it forward. They talked for another 10 minutes. About the program, about Falcon Ridge, about Mitchell who'd made Lance Corporal and was being fast-tracked for leadership roles. About Kavanaugh, who was 3 months into his sentence, writing letters of apology, attending therapy, actually changing. About Catherine Kavanaugh, who'd sent a Christmas card. Inside, a photo. Bryce in prison uniform, standing straighter than before. The note read, "He's become the son I always knew he could be. Thank you for seeing it first." About all the small victories that added up to something larger. When they hung up, Sloan sat in silence, looking at Hawk's watch, 30 years of survival on her wrist. She thought about adding her own engraving someday, when she'd earned it, when she'd done enough to deserve sharing space with Hawk's legacy. But not yet. Not yet. 1 year later, September 2019, Sloan stood in front of a military academy auditorium. 200 cadets, future officers, some skeptical, some curious, all of them waiting. She'd been invited to speak about the Merrick Protocol, about documentation, about fighting smart, about knowing when violence was necessary and when patience was stronger. But more than that, about being a woman in a man's world and refusing to play by rules designed to make you fail. "My name is Lieutenant Commander Sloan Merrick," she began, "and I'm going to tell you about the most important fight I've ever been in. The one where I didn't throw a single punch." She told them about Falcon Ridge, about Kavanaugh, about taking a boot to the jaw and walking away, about documenting everything, about giving someone a second chance they didn't deserve, about 18 months later receiving a letter from Kavanaugh, who'd been released early for good behavior, who joined a veteran support program, who was working with at-risk youth, teaching them about consequences and second chances, about how one act of mercy had created ripples that were still spreading. When she finished, the auditorium was silent. Then one cadet raised her hand, female, young, maybe 19. "Ma'am, what if someone doesn't deserve a second chance? What if they're too far gone?" Sloan thought about that, about Osmani, who was now serving life in a black site prison, about the people she'd encountered who were beyond redemption. "You're right," she said. "Some people are too far gone, but you don't know which ones until you give them the chance to prove it. And if you never offer that chance, you'll never know if you destroyed someone who could have been saved." Another hand, male cadet. "But isn't that risky? What if they hurt someone else while you're giving them a chance?" "That's why you document. That's why you build your case. That's why you control the situation instead of letting it control you." Sloan paused. Mercy doesn't mean stupidity. It means measured compassion backed by overwhelming evidence. The questions continued for another hour, about tactics, about documentation, about how to maintain humanity in a profession built on violence. When it ended, cadets lined up to shake her hand, to thank her, to tell her she'd changed how they thought about leadership. One young woman waited until everyone else had left. "Ma'am, I just wanted to say, I was assaulted 6 months ago by another cadet. I didn't report it because I thought no one would believe me. But hearing your story, I'm going to report it tomorrow, and I'm going to document everything just like you did." Sloan looked at her, saw herself at 19, before BUD/S, before the Navy, before she'd learned that silence was complicity. "You're going to be okay," Sloan said. "It won't be easy, but you're going to be okay." "How do you know?" "Because you're already braver than you think, and because you're not alone anymore." The cadet nodded, tears in her eyes. Then she left. Sloan stood in the empty auditorium, thinking about Amanda Sullivan, about Hawk, about Mitchell and Dalton, and even Kavanaugh, about the watch on her wrist. She checked the time, 1,800 hours, time to go home. Except she didn't have a home anymore. Not really. CIA kept her moving. Different assignments, different countries, always temporary, always classified. But maybe that was okay. Maybe home wasn't a place. Maybe it was a purpose. And Sloan Merrick had found hers. 5 years later, March 2024, Master Chief Garrett Sullivan stood at the podium in the Naval Special Warfare Center. 67 years old now, the Merrick Protocol program had become his full-time work, his purpose. Behind him, a projection screen showed a photograph. A young woman, 22, bruised jaw, split lip, standing at attention in front of a formation. "This is Lieutenant Commander Sloan Merrick," Hawk said to the room full of SEAL candidates. "Some of you may have heard of her. Most of you probably haven't. That's by design. She operates in spaces where names don't exist and records get redacted." He clicked to the next slide, the Falcon Ridge Formation, 30 Marines saluting. In 2018, Lieutenant Merrick was assigned to investigate sexual harassment at a joint training facility. She was 22 years old, no rank visible, no backup, no authority except what she earned. Another slide, the parking lot, 6 men on the ground, Sloan standing over them. She was assaulted twice, documented everything, built an airtight case, and when she had the chance to destroy the man who attacked her, she gave him mercy instead. Hawk paused, let it sink in. That mercy changed him, changed an entire facility, changed military policy at 127 installations, all because one woman refused to let violence be answered with more violence. He clicked to a final slide. Recent photograph. Sloan in civilian clothes. Location classified. But her eyes were the same. Sharp, calm, unwavering. Lieutenant Commander Merrick is currently serving with the CIA Special Activities Division. I can't tell you where or what she's doing, but I can tell you this. She's saved more lives through patience than most of you will save through violence. A candidate raised his hand. Master Chief, where's she from originally? Doesn't matter. Is she still active? Can't say. Will we ever meet her? Hawk smiled. If you're lucky, and if you earn it. Another candidate spoke up. Master Chief, whatever happened to that lieutenant commander, the one who harassed your daughter? Hawk's smile was cold. Retired, quietly, last year. Turns out when enough people start documenting, even the protected ones run out of places to hide. He glanced at his phone. A message from Sloan. Just a photo. A Navy Times headline. Oceana Co. faces inquiry. Maintenance fraud charges. Justice is patient, Hawk said, but it never forgets. The briefing ended. Candidates filed out, talking about the silent warrior, about the woman who changed the rules without firing a shot. Hawk's phone buzzed. Encrypted text. Watched your lecture via secure feed. You made me sound like a superhero. I'm not. SM. Hawk typed back. You're right. You're better. Heroes die young. Warriors endure. Keep enduring. The response came immediately. Hoo-yah, Hawk. Hoo-yah, kid. Hawk put his phone away. Looked at his own wrist. Empty now. The Omega Seamaster was with Sloan, where it belonged. He hoped she was safe. Hoped she was winning. Hoped she was still being the warrior Amanda never got to be. But more than that, he hoped she knew what she'd built. A legacy that would outlive them both. A protocol that would save lives for generations. A reminder that the strongest warriors aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who get back up and keep fighting. Not with fists, but with patience, with documentation, with mercy measured in millimeters and justice served cold. The silent warrior, still fighting, still winning, still teaching the world that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't violence, it's restraint. And Sloan Merrick had mastered it.